I'm going to go to my perspective view. Now we're ready to start the animation process. I'm in the side view and I've accessed the planet Mars, and this is the crater in which the arm will pull an object out of. Having parented everything, if I needed to now, I could select the ring at the bottom, I could scale and move, and everything will change accordingly. So here's where you may want to decide on the scale. I'm going to have it fly in from the upper right hand corner. I'll zoom back a little bit and I'll start at frame number 1. And at frame number 1, I'm going to marquee select translate and rotate in the channel box for X, Y, and Z, and I'll right click and choose key selected. Hitting W on the keyboard, I'll move it up to the right hand corner, maybe just off the screen. I'm not going to go too far because it's a kind of a quick animation and it'd look kind of silly if the drone flew kind of fast down to the hole in the planet. I'll go to frame 100 and I'll move it down to the crater. I'll go to my top view to make sure that it is where it can be accessed by the little claw that will pull the object out of the crater. And I'll go to my side view and just drag through my timeline to make sure I'm getting what I want. Now I've got the drone that lands on the planet, and I'd like it to set for 10 frames before it starts to try to pick up the object inside the crater. So I'll go to frame 110, and I'll right click and drag through translate X, Y, Z again, and right click, choose key selected. Now we have a 10 frame buffer at which it will sit still. I'd like the arm to move for the first time at frame 120. I'll select the IK, which is the green vertices, and in the channel box I'll marquee select translate XYZ, and I'll right click and choose key selected. I'll move to frame 130, and the first movement of the arm will be to go directly over the crater. Now I'll go to frame 140 and I'll move it down into the crater. If I drag through my timeline, the drone will land, the arm articulates and goes down into the crater. At 150, I'll select translate XYZ again, right clicking and choosing key selected. And all we're doing is just duplicating keyframes to give them some time static before they move again. Now 150 is where it will pick up an object. I've put a sphere in just for the tutorial. To have the arm pick up the ball when it lands, we need to use a parenting function that is located under the animation tab. In the upper left hand corner of the UI, I'm going to change modeling to animation. And you'll see that the UI now reflects the different functions that are available with the animation tab. I'll select one of the pieces of the claw or the sphere at the bottom of the arm, and I'll shift select the ball. I'll go to constrain and I'll click on parent. So at 150, if I were to drag backwards and forwards, I'm going to be able to animate that to pick up the ball. I'm making sure I'm still on 150, and I'm doing so using the little VCR control in the lower right hand corner. The triangles that have orange lines allow us to navigate to existing keyframes on something that's animated. At 150, I'll select just the sphere that is the object to be picked up. I'll right click and drag through all the functions in the channel box, and I'll right click and choose key selected. You'll notice that at the very bottom now the term blend parent 1 appears. I'll right click and make sure I've key selected that, and then I'll change the 0 to a 1. If I move back in time now, the ball is in the clutches of the arm for the duration, so it's immediately been attached to the drone, and that's not what we want. With the ball selected, I'll make sure I'm back on frame 150. I'm going to move back to frame 149. I can do that through the active numeric box, or I could have clicked on the little triangle with the white line in front of it to move back in 1 frame increments. I'll go up to where blend parent 1 is. I'll select the 1 and put a 0 in. And now once we animate the drone taking off, the ball will be in the clutches of the arm, and not until then. I'm putting my playback head at 160, and at 160 I'll select the circle that controls the whole animation. We're going to copy and paste the same keyframe that is at 110 to 160. I'll mark key select translate and rotate XYZ, and then I'll right click and choose key selected. Now I'll put my playback head at 260, and in the side view I'll move the drone up in the air and off the screen. Now if I were to play through my animation, I should see something like this. Now I want to make one minor adjustment. When the drone leaves the planet with the ball in its clutches, it's kind of pulling through the planet, kind of defying the laws of gravity. So there's two things we can try with that. I'll select the ring first, and I'll put the playback head maybe at 170, and I'll start to move the drone in vertical. And then I'm going to bring the arm at 170. I'll select the IK. I'll mark key select translate XYZ with the IK selected, and I'll key it there. And I'll move maybe 10 frames from there. And I'll tuck the arm up a bit. So now if I was to play through, the drone will come in, take off, tuck the ball, and go. Now all I need to do is make a play blast of this. So I'll set the in and out point in the timeline to 260 where the flight ends. And now I'll go up to Windows. I'm going to play blast attributes. I'll choose time slider and I'll hit apply.